Alright guys, bit of a versatile update today. We're going into short-term price action, medium-term price action, and long-term price action. A brief analysis of all of those things. Ultimately, I want to tie it up by bringing it back to the main point we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks. And that is the fact that we have a deadline on Bitcoin in which it's going to be making a directional decision by that January 9th week. So the week of January 9th, which means it extends from January 9th to January 16th, that week is going to be the deadline for Bitcoin making a directional move. And of course, today is January 4th, in Australia at least. Might be January 3rd for some of you still, but the point is, of course, it's January 4th and January 9th is only 5 days away, which means that directional move is going to be coming very, very shortly. We have various charts saying compression's massive right now. Low volatility on the on-chain charts, and ultimately it's a time in which we need to be watching the charts very closely and paying very close attention because something big is about to happen very, very shortly. And honestly, it could happen any day now. So let's get into the analysis, guys. And just before we get into it, sorry to do that to you. Just before we get into it, we have the VIP results which have released. You can find that in the pinned comments and the description. There's a link there that also leads you to the VIP group and stuff like that where you can join up if you want to. We've got the Crypto Academy courses if you want to learn how to trade for yourself. I have a university type program in which you can do that. Check out the website. And finally, we have the Bitget Exchange, which you can sign up using the referral link in the pinned comment below. But more on that later. Okay, now let's get into it. Okay, so straight off the bat, Bitcoin is in a pretty rough short-term position, okay, and medium-term as well. And the reason I say this, well, there's various reasons for it, but the main reason I say this is because we had a bear flag formation here on Bitcoin, this pink bear flag, which was kind of compressing against this downtrending yellow line, which we see as the critical line. We'll get into that in a second, but this pink bear flag was made after a downwards move. We had this uptrending channel formation. We broke it to the downside, and we've actually in the last few days been rejecting off the bottom side of it quite extensively. And what that means is that we've been seeing resistance support flips, okay? So we've seen a break to the downside, and we've tried to break back into it, but ultimately it's failed at this point in time. And that's very negative, and that actually makes it more bearish. The breakdown now is actually very strong because not only have we broken down, but we've tried and failed to break back into it. Now, we're still trying to break in. The attempt is not over yet, and we can see that on the hourly chart, for example. This is the hourly chart of the same chart here. We can see that this pink line here is the bear flag that was represented on the daily chart. It's not over until we break down below this lower yellow line, but what we can notice is that when this pink line and this lower yellow line are put together, what we generally have here is actually an ascending wedge formation, which again is a very bearish formation. So yes, there's a small chance we break back within the bear flag, in which case that would be very bullish for Bitcoin. But there's also a large chance, and a much larger chance, that we break downwards below the ascending wedge, in which case we would have broken down from an ascending wedge and we would have rejected from the bottom of a bear flag formation, which is very negative. So yeah, Bitcoin's not in the best position in the short and medium term. And, adding to this, we can go ahead and check out the hourly chart RSI. So we have a bearish divergence there. And we can go back to the daily chart. We can actually check out the RSI and the daily chart and see what we really are seeing here is a triangular formation on the RSI, breakdown from a triangle formation, and resistance support flips off the bottom. So not only did we resistance support flip off of the bottom of the bear flag, but we're also doing that off the bottom of the triangle formation on the RSI, which is very, very bearish. We're seeing volume compress quite heavily. And this is leading into what I said before about the compression we're seeing on these charts here. Volume is actually compressing quite heavily. You can see a downwards trending slope on that volume chart, which when you see descending volume like that, generally it means there's a massive amount of indecision in the market. People are bored. They're not buying right now. They're not sure what to do, so they just do nothing. And that only lasts so long. And when you see low volatility, you're generally seeing low volume come with that. But ultimately, it generally leads to a spike in volume and hence a spike in volatility eventually. It comes to a catalyst. And that catalyst will be coming very shortly because we're looking at the Bollinger Bands as well, and we can see that these Bollinger Bands, are at the tightest point they've seen for the entirety of this range, ever since Luna, right? And even before that point, the Bollinger Bands are at the tightest points we've seen, for a long period of time. In fact, even if we scroll back and just take a look here, we can probably see that the Bollinger Bands are probably at the tightest point they've seen since maybe 2020 or October 2020, meaning the compression we're seeing right now is the highest level of compression we've seen since October 2020. And you know what? And let's go back again and actually see what happened after that compression point in October 2020. It's not hard to see, After that compression point, look what we saw. Explosive, right? After that compression point, explosive move to the upside. So, we could be in a similar situation here for Bitcoin, and there's no guarantee that move's going to be to the upside, but it certainly is possible. If we are looking at the short-term charts and taking the short-term charts for what they do say, it's pretty likely that move's going to be to the downside, but ultimately we have to wait and see, right? There's a lot of things in the market that can't be determined by an hourly chart ascending wedge formation, that's for sure. And one of those things, of course, is the 4-year cycle, which we've looked at extensively. But, even if we do move downwards, even if Bitcoin does see another crash here, it wouldn't throw anything out the window in terms of macro structure, because the 4-year cycle, of course, does predict a bottom either in Q4 or in January. So we are in the last leg of the 4-year cycle, but we still are in it. So a crash here wouldn't actually be that detrimental, but it would be interesting to see. However, a pump would be excellent, that's for sure. And just extending on that point here, we can get into what I actually wanted to talk about in this video, and what I've been wanting to talk about for a long period of time, and I've talked about it a lot, is the compression point. Now that we've established, how important that kind of short-term movement is, now we've established how dangerous the position really is for Bitcoin, and how big that compression is specifically, the massive amount of compression. We know there's a big move coming. And I suppose the question is, well, when is that big move going to be coming? I want to briefly interrupt this video to talk about the Bitget Exchange. The Bitget Exchange has 5 times lower fees than Binance, which is the biggest major exchange in the cryptocurrency market on futures. It also has 0 fees on every single spot pair, so you can trade spot for entirely free, no fees included. It runs events. Right now it's got a FIFA World Cup event sponsored by Messi, the football player. It's got copy trading, strategy trading. It's got exclusive rewards and discounts in the reward center. It's got everything you need for a trader using an exchange. This is the exchange I personally use as a trader for my everyday trading, and I highly recommend everyone does so at the Wolves of Crypto YouTube channel. Sign up using my referral link for exclusive rewards and discounts. That really helps out the channel, and I appreciate it. For my fans from the United States of America, you can sign up using this exchange with a VPN and use the exchange with a VPN and just sign up using my referral link like normal, and you'll be treated like a normal customer because this is also a non-KYC exchange. So make sure to sign up using my referral link in the pinned comment or the description below, and without further ado, let's get back into the video. And we can answer that question here. What we have on the weekly chart is an 8-year uptrending support line, and compressing between that 8-year uptrending support line and the bull market support band is the price, and that's only going to last so long. This bull market support band is going to be crossing under this 8-year support line soon, and at that point the price will have to move either up or downwards, right? But we can narrow it down further than that, because that compression point is only going to happen in mid-February. We can narrow it down further than that, and we can say, well, look at the RSI. The RSI has been in a consolidation structure since January 2021. This is a 2-year long RSI consolidation structure on the weekly chart. That is massive stuff. That's massive. This started, right, when we were up here at the all-time high of 38K. Massively long consolidation, pattern on the RSI, which will lead to a huge directional decision. And we know this directional decision will be coming before the end of the week, starting on January 9th, before January 16th, right? This directional decision will be taken, right? And that means, right, referring back to this chart above, that means that Bitcoin will either move above the bull market support band, right, and hence break the downwards trend and hence go upwards and break the whole downwards move, or it will move downwards to new lows and will be moving upwards later in the year, right, or later in the month potentially, right? So the point is, and this is the main point I wanted to cover in this video, and it's the main point I'm going to be covering every single video until this happens, because it's very close to happening. Everyone needs to be aware of it. The main point is this: there is a 2-year consolidation pattern on the RSI that reflects the fact that we're going to be seeing a directional decision, either downwards further to new lows below an 8-year support line, right, to 13.5K or something like that, or 11.5K, or there's going to be a move that breaks to the upside, that breaks above this yellow line, that breaks above the bull market support band, that breaks above the 200-day SMA, that breaks above the 300-week SMA, which we can bring up right now on the weekly chart, right? And that's in the same region as all of these other lines here on the daily chart. That's going to be happening before January 16th. That's huge news. What else do you want me to talk about? At that point, when you have something that big, something that major, something that, that considerable, that's going to literally determine whether we see new lows or whether we break out of this bear market entirely in anything under 11 days, okay? And most likely before that point, actually almost certainly before that point, right? What else do we need to talk about? That's what we need to talk about. That's the main topic of conversation. So I suppose the only other thing you have to say is, well, how do we react to that situation? And we react like this. If we go downwards, we don't do anything. If we go upwards, we buy the rest of the Bitcoin, right? We've bought 50% at 17. We bought 50% of our Bitcoin at 17 to 18k, right? We've got the other 50% in reserves. If we go downwards further, we're not going to try catch a falling knife. We will buy at the reversal point regardless of what Bitcoin does, right? So if Bitcoin breaks that yellow line on the weekly chart, breaks bull market support band, breaks the 200-day SMA, that's the buy signal. If it goes down further, we do nothing because we're not trying to catch a falling knife. That is a very dangerous game, and especially if we go down lower, and especially this close towards the end of the 4-year cycle, we're starting to risk things. We don't want to try catching falling knives right now. But yeah, huge stuff. Talked about it before. I suppose the new thing about this analysis was this ascending wedge in the hourly chart and what's happening with the rejections on the bear flag. So the new part of what I was talking about in this video today, and the stuff we haven't heard yet, is the fact that unfortunately the short to medium term doesn't look very good at all. In fact, it looks very bad. And we really need to be watching this hourly chart ascending wedge. Perhaps it will surprise us. Perhaps it will break to the upside. It's unlikely, but it's certainly possible. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.